In a distant time, God dwelled in a formless world shrouded in darkness. He hovered over the imperial waters, and in a sublime moment, God spoke the words that echo eternally. "Let there be light." And so it was. Light emerged, and God saw that it was good. He separated light from darkness, revealing his divine power. However, a fundamental theological question persists. Where did God come from? When heaven and earth were nothing more than a promise, when darkness reigned over a shapeless void, God already existed. He majestically dwelt alone in his divine greatness. He called light out of darkness, brought order out of chaos, and created a cosmos out of confusion. But the incessant question remained, where did God come from? Some assert that God created the earth 6,000 years ago in just 6 days. However, to be philosophically consistent and honest, the question arises, where did God come from? Furthermore, once we understand the origin of God, how can we comprehend the influence of a spiritual force on a material universe? If it is believed that God created the universe, logic leads us to question who created God. And so begins the endless cycle of inquiries. Who created God? And who created the God who created God? The quest for truth extends to infinity, challenging our minds and leading us to question the depths of the unknown. Let's delve deeper into the question, who created God? When we ask this question, we immediately encounter the idea of a created God, which is intriguing. This inquiry in itself illustrates a crucial point. Belief in God as the creator is fundamental to our understanding. However, this question is intriguing because it leads us to consider a more plausible explanation: the impossibility of something arising from nothing. If we agree that it is not possible to create something from an absolute void, we arrive at a powerful conclusion. There must be something eternal, always existing, for otherwise we would be trapped in eternal emptiness. Therefore, all of us, in some way, are forced to believe that something has always existed. This is the only logical explanation, for if we accept that nothing can arise from nothing, then both you and I, who are here discussing, are something, and that something must have existed forever. The idea of something eternal, ever-present, is the key to understanding the enigma of creation. Here is the question. Everything we know about the physical world leads us to doubt that something can exist eternally. Especially since the 1930s, when the Big Bang theory was widely accepted, our understanding of the universe has changed drastically. This theory suggests that our current universe is just a temporal manifestation, a single iteration in an infinite series. Consider the evidence. The universe is constantly changing, energy is gradually being consumed, and the well-established second law of thermodynamics teaches us that energy depletes over time. Stars are losing their energy, and the expansion of the universe seems to be accelerating, pushing its boundaries beyond our comprehension. All of this leads us to conclude that the physical world as we know it is not a viable candidate for something that has existed eternally. Now, the big question is, whatever has existed eternally must be entirely different from what we see today. The primordial cause, the source of everything, must be something beyond our current understanding. And so, we are challenged to explore the true nature of this mystery, transcends our physical world. I recognize that the idea of something existing eternally may seem challenging, but I would like to present a different perspective. Consider that everything we perceive as contingent reality, meaning things that could be otherwise, are just fleeting manifestations. Even seemingly solid objects like this chair in front of you were once merely possibilities on the brink of non-being. They are not permanent. They vanish over time. The truth is that all these things cannot explain themselves. They are interconnected, like domino pieces in a chain of interdependent contingency. At some point, we must assume that there is something fundamental, something entirely different from what we are trying to explain. When it comes to God, the central claim of Christian, Jewish, and Islamic traditions is that God is eternal. Therefore, the question about the origin of God does not apply to him by definition. The only way to argue against this is to assume that everything belongs to the category of created. But that simply puts us back to square one. The ancient Greeks explored this question, and that's why the Gospel of John begins with the words, "In the beginning was the Word." This statement invites us to consider that all things have their origin in something eternal and transcendental, something beyond our understanding, something that already existed before everything. Ancient Greeks were interested in the question of two categories: what is created and what already exists. Ultimately, this question boils down to whether there is something or someone who never came into existence. Christians claim that this being is God, and this assertion is central to their faith. The question of who created God may seem legitimate to some, but I argue that it is not. Now, for those who believe that the universe created everything, I want to pose a question: who created the creator of the universe? This question often leaves people perplexed, and I have asked it to many scientists myself. I remember one occasion when I was discussing with about 1,000 scientists, and a physicist approached me. He said, "It's interesting, all that you talk about God, but you're a Christian, and as a Christian you believe in the Trinity, that Jesus was God and man. That's absurd. Can you explain that to me?" I replied, "Of course I can, but first let me ask you a question. What is consciousness?" He pondered for a moment and admitted he didn't know. So I asked, "What is energy?" He replied that as a physicist, he could measure it but didn't know what it was. I continued, "Well, my question isn't about that. My question is, do you believe in consciousness?" He said yes. "And do you believe in energy?" Again, he answered affirmatively. I then said, "You believe in these two things, but you've admitted that you don't know what they are. So you're an intellectual. Don't worry about it." He replied, "Please don't call me that." And I concluded, "That's exactly what you were about to do with me 5 minutes ago. If you don't know what energy is, don't be surprised if energy, light, gravity, and consciousness are mysteries. Don't be surprised if all these mysteries are contained in God." The question of who created God in reality is not as complex as it may seem. When we refer to God as an eternal and timeless being, the answer becomes clear. As Keith Ward argues in his book God, Chance, and Necessity, if someone were to ask what caused God, the answer would be simple. Nothing could have brought into existence a reality that completely transcends space and time, that is self-existent. Understanding this idea is to understand that God is beyond the categories of beginning and end. Anything that begins to exist needs a cause, cannot arise from nothing. However, something that is eternal and timeless does not fit into this initial premise. It does not need a cause. Even atheists like Daniel Dennett acknowledge that if eternal truths exist, such as numbers or mathematical objects, they do not need a cause because they never come into existence. The concept of God is precisely the concept of an eternal and self-existent being, primal necessity. Therefore, the answer is simple. God has no cause because he is self-existent. Our definition of God is the uncreated creator of the universe who transcends all limitations of time and space. The question of who created the uncreated creator is like asking about the sound of silence or what emptiness does. What I am trying to illustrate is that there is a definition of silence that prevents us from asking such a question. Similarly, when we question who created the uncreated creator of the universe, we are following a line of reasoning that does not apply to him. This brings us to an important point. Christians base their beliefs on a God who was not created, while atheists often provide different answers. As a former atheist, I also used to believe in an uncreated creator, although my understanding was different. He said, "It's interesting, all that you talk about God, but you're a Christian, and as a Christian you believe in the Trinity, that Jesus was God and man. That's absurd. Can you explain that to me?" I replied, "Of course I can, but first let me ask you a question. What is consciousness?" He pondered for a moment and admitted he didn't know. So I asked, "What is energy?" He replied that as a physicist, he could measure it but didn't know what it was. I continued, "Well, my question isn't about that. My question is, do you believe in consciousness?" He said yes. "And do you believe in energy?" Again, he answered affirmatively. I then said, "You believe in these two things, but you've admitted that you don't know what they are. So you're an intellectual. Don't worry about it." He replied, "Please don't call me that." And I concluded, "That's exactly what you were about to do with me 5 minutes ago. If you don't know what energy is, don't be surprised if energy, light, gravity, and consciousness are mysteries. Don't be surprised if all these mysteries are contained in God. The question of who created God in reality is not as complex as it may seem. When we refer to God as an eternal and timeless being, the answer becomes clear. As Keith Ward argues in his book God, Chance, and Necessity, if someone were to ask what caused God, the answer would be simple. Nothing could have brought into existence a reality that completely transcends space and time, that is self-existent. Understanding this idea is to understand that God is beyond the categories of beginning and end. Anything that begins to exist needs a cause, cannot arise from nothing. However, something that is eternal and timeless does not fit into this initial premise. It does not need a cause. Even atheists like Daniel Dennett acknowledge that if eternal truths exist, such as numbers or mathematical objects, they do not need a cause because they never come into existence. The concept of God is precisely the concept of an eternal and self-existent being, primal necessity. Therefore, the answer is simple. God has no cause because he is self-existent. Our definition of God is the uncreated creator of the universe who transcends all limitations of time and space. The question of who created the uncreated creator is like asking about the sound of silence or what emptiness does. What I am trying to illustrate is that there is a definition of silence that prevents us from asking such a question. Similarly, when we question who created the uncreated creator of the universe, we are following a line of reasoning that does not apply to him. This brings us to an important point. Christians base their beliefs on a God who was not created, while atheists often provide different answers. As a former atheist, I also used to believe in an uncreated creator, although my understanding was different. Yet as humanity ponders the magnificence of creation, a fundamental question lingers. Where did God come from? This question has puzzled theologians, philosophers, and scientists for millennia. In a world where everything has a beginning and an end, the concept of an eternal, uncreated being challenges our understanding of existence. To unravel this mystery, we must journey back to the dawn of time, to the moment when God decided to bring forth the universe from the depths of nothing. Before the universe was born, before the stars ignited and the planets formed, God existed in a realm beyond human comprehension. He was not bound by the constraints of time and space. He was the source of all that would ever be. In his infinite wisdom, he envisioned a cosmos teeming with life, beauty, and complexity. And so he spoke the universe into existence, setting in motion the grand narrative of creation. In those first moments, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, a canvas waiting to be filled with the wonders of his design. God separated the waters, creating the sky above and the seas below. He brought forth dry land, covered it with lush vegetation, and set the sun, moon, and stars in the heavens to govern the passage of time. Each act of creation was a testament to his boundless power and divine artistry. As the universe took shape, God created life. From the depths of the seas, he called forth creatures of every kind, from the smallest fish to the mighty leviathans. He filled the skies with birds, their songs a symphony of praise to their creator. On the land, he brought forth animals, from the tiniest insects to the majestic beasts that roamed the earth. Each creature was a masterpiece, intricately designed and perfectly suited to its environment. But God's greatest creation was yet to come. In a final act of divine creativity, he formed man from the dust of the earth and breathed into him the breath of life. Man became a living being, created in the image of God, endowed with intellect, emotion, and free will. God placed man in the Garden of Eden, a paradise filled with every good thing. In this garden, man walked with God, enjoying perfect communion with his Creator. Yet the story of creation is not just about the beginning of the universe. It is also about the relationship between God and his creation. As man looked upon the wonders of the world and marveled at the beauty and complexity of life, he saw the order and harmony of the natural world, the cycles of day and night, the changing seasons, and the intricate web of life that sustained all living things. Man recognized the hand of God in all that he saw, and he worshipped his Creator with awe and reverence. But even as man celebrated the glory of creation, he could not escape the question, where did God come from? This question is not merely a philosophical curiosity. It touches the very core of human existence. To understand the origin of God is to understand the nature of reality itself. It is to grasp the fundamental truth that underlies all of creation, that there is a source, an eternal, unchanging reality from which everything else derives its existence. In the ancient world, different cultures sought to answer this question in various ways. Some believed in a pantheon of gods, each with its own domain and power. Others envisioned a primordial chaos from which the cosmos emerged. But the Judeo-Christian tradition offers a unique perspective. That God is eternal, uncreated, and self-existent. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. He is the source of all being, foundation of reality itself. The concept of an eternal God challenges our finite understanding of existence. In our experience, everything has a cause. Nothing comes from nothing. But God transcends this causal chain. He is not a part of the created order. He is the creator of all things. He exists outside of time and space, beyond the limits of human comprehension. To ask where God came from is to misunderstand the nature of his existence. God is not a being among beings. He is being itself, the ground of all reality. As humanity advances in knowledge and understanding, we continue to grapple with the mysteries of the universe. Science has uncovered the vastness of space, the intricacies of life, and the fundamental forces that govern the cosmos. Yet even as we probe the depths of reality, we encounter questions that science alone cannot answer. The origin of the universe, the nature of consciousness, the meaning of existence. These are questions that point beyond the material world to the transcendent reality of God. In our quest for truth, we must recognize the limits of our understanding. We must acknowledge that there are mysteries that lie beyond the reach of human reason. The question of God's origin is one such mystery. It invites us to contemplate the infinite, to stand in awe of the divine, and to recognize our place in the grand narrative of creation. It challenges us to see the world not merely as a collection of physical phenomena, but as a reflection of the divine purpose and love. As we reflect on the story of creation, we are reminded of the profound truth that underlies all of existence, that we are not alone in the universe. We are part of a grand design, a masterpiece crafted by a loving and wise creator. Our lives have meaning and purpose, grounded in the eternal reality of God. And even as we wrestle with the mysteries of existence, we can find peace in the knowledge that we are held in the hands of the one who brought forth light from darkness, order from chaos, and life from the dust of the earth. In the end, the question of where God came from may remain unanswered, a mystery that transcends human understanding. But in this mystery lies the beauty of faith, the recognition that there is a reality beyond our comprehension, a divine presence that sustains and guides us. As we journey through life, let us embrace this mystery with wonder and reverence, trusting in the eternal God who created us, loves us, and invites us into a relationship with him. For in this relationship, we find the true meaning of existence and the hope of eternal life. Consider this. If we could fit the infinite God into our finite minds, he would not be worthy of worship. The answers to our questions must take into account the nature of God, who transcends our understanding. This approach helps us appreciate the mystery of the divine and deepens our spiritual exploration. The giant Goliath and his brothers. Goliath, the infamous giant from the Bible, was a champion of the Philistine army. Standing over 9 feet 9 inches tall, 1 Samuel 17:4, he was a formidable warrior who instilled fear in the hearts of the Israelites. Goliath's imposing stature was complemented by his formidable armor. He wore a bronze helmet, a coat of mail weighing over 125 pounds, bronze greaves on his legs, and carried a bronze javelin slung over his shoulders. His spear shaft was as thick as a weaver's beam, with a head weighing approximately 15 pounds. A shield bearer went before him, providing additional defense. 1 Samuel 17:5-7. The Philistine armor was distinctive, resembling a tarp layered with bronze rings from shoulder to knee, offering protection against sharp weapons. Clad in this heavy armor, Goliath's presence alone was enough to terrify any opponent. Confident in his strength, Goliath challenged the Israelites, taunting them daily. "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects." But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subject. 1 Samuel 17, 8-9. Goliath's challenge was a call for representative combat, common practice in ancient Eastern civilizations where a duel between two champions would determine the outcome of the conflict. For 40 days, Goliath issued this challenge, his towering figure a constant reminder of the threat he posed. Each morning and evening, he marched out, daring anyone to face him. 1 Samuel 17:16. Meanwhile, in the hills of Judah, a young shepherd named David was tending his father's sheep. Too young to join the army, David was unaware of the conflict between the Israelites and the Philistines, his primary concern being the well-being of his 3 older brothers who served in King Saul's army. David's father, Jesse, advanced in age, could not travel through the mountains. He instructed David to visit his brothers at the camp, bringing them provisions. 1 Samuel 17:17-18. David arrived just as the army was preparing for battle. He joined his brothers, eager to hear their stories. As they spoke, Goliath emerged, repeating his challenge. Hearing Goliath's words, David was filled with righteous anger. 1 Samuel 17:22-23. The Israelites were terrified of Goliath, fleeing at his sight. 1 Samuel 17:24. But David, outraged by Goliath's arrogance and insults against the God of Israel, boldly asked, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" 1 Samuel 17:26. David volunteered to face Goliath, confident in God's strength. He assured King Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." 1 Samuel 17:32. Saul, concerned about David's youth and Goliath's experience, tried to dissuade him, but David persisted, drawing courage from his past victories over lions and bears. "Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them because he has defied the armies of the living God." 1 Samuel 17:36. Seeing David's unwavering faith, Saul agreed to let him face Goliath. He dressed David in his own armor, but David found it cumbersome. Instead, he chose his shepherd's staff, 5 smooth stones from the stream, and his sling. 1 Samuel 17:38-40. When Goliath saw David approaching, he ridiculed him, saying, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" 1 Samuel 17:43. Undeterred, David stood firm. "You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin. I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel." 1 Samuel 7:45-46. With only his sling and a single stone, David ran towards Goliath, took aim, and struck the giant in the forehead. Goliath fell face down to the ground, beaten. 1 Samuel 17:49-50. David then used Goliath's own sword to cut off his head. The Philistines, seeing their champion defeated, fled in terror, and the Israelites pursued them, driving them back to their land. 1 Samuel 17:51-53. David brought Goliath's head to Jerusalem, powerful symbol of his victory and God's deliverance. Goliath's brothers. Some scholars believe Goliath was a Nephilim, a race of giants mentioned in Genesis 6:4. Others suggest he was a Rephaim, another race of giants from the Old Testament. Regardless of his lineage, Goliath's defeat underscored the power of faith over physical might. But Goliath's story doesn't end there. He had 4 brothers, all giants, who also challenged the Israelites. Ishbi-Benob, formidable warrior. He wielded a spear weighing 300 shekels of bronze and a new sword. He sought to kill David, but was ultimately defeated through divine intervention. 2 Samuel 21:15-17. Zaph. This giant clashed with Zekai, one of David's mighty warriors. Zekai, a skilled and powerful fighter, defeated Zaph. 1 Chronicles 11. Lami, another of Goliath's brothers. Lami wielded a massive spear similar to Goliath's. He was defeated by Elhanan, the son of Jair. 1 Chronicles 25. The unnamed giant. This giant, notable for having 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, was defeated by Jonathan, the son of Shemiah, David's brother. 1 Chronicles 20:6-8. These battles illustrate the ongoing challenges faced by God's people, and reaffirm that even the most daunting enemies can be overcome through faith and resilience. Conclusion. The story of Goliath and his brothers serves as a timeless reminder that faith and courage can overcome even the most formidable opponents. It also underscores the importance of vigilance and perseverance in the face of recurring challenges. God grants strength and victory to those who trust in Him. Lessons learned from the story of Eli and Saph. The story of Eli and Saph, though fictional, draws upon the timeless themes of courage, faith, and the power of intelligence over brute strength. As a reimagining of the biblical narrative of David and Goliath, it offers rich lessons that are relevant not only in ancient times but also in our modern world. From Eli's journey, we can extract several valuable insights that resonate deeply with the human experience. 1. Courage is not the absence of fear but the triumph over it. Eli, the young shepherd, is not a warrior by trade or experience. He is a farmer, a dreamer, and by all accounts, an ordinary young man. However, when faced with the overwhelming fear that gripped his people, Eli chose to confront that fear instead of succumbing to it. His courage was not rooted in physical strength or battle-hardened experience, but in his determination to stand up for what he believed was right. This teaches us that courage is not about never feeling fear, but about choosing to act in spite of it. True courage is born when we recognize our fears, yet we push forward to do what needs to be done. 2. Intelligence and strategy often outweigh brute strength. Saph, like his brother Goliath, represents the archetype of the formidable giant, an unstoppable force of nature. In contrast, Eli embodies the power of intelligence and strategic thinking. Eli understood that he could not match Saph's physical prowess, so he devised a plan that exploited the giant's weaknesses. By luring Saph out of his cave and into the sunlight, Eli was able to level the playing field, making the giant vulnerable to attack. This lesson is particularly poignant in our daily lives, where challenges can seem insurmountable. The story reminds us that with careful planning, creativity, and a keen understanding of our adversaries, we can overcome obstacles that seem far beyond our capabilities. 3. Leadership is not about power, but about inspiring others to believe. Although Eli was not a leader by title, he became one through his actions. His ability to inspire hope and determination in his brothers and the other soldiers was a crucial element in their victory over Saph. Leadership, as Eli demonstrates, is not about wielding power or commanding authority, but about guiding others with a vision and instilling in them the belief that they can achieve something greater than themselves. Eli's leadership was rooted in his empathy, his understanding of his people's fears, and his ability to turn those fears into collective strength. This is a valuable lesson for anyone in a leadership position. True leaders inspire and uplift, rather than dominate and control. 4. Faith is a powerful force that can overcome even the greatest challenges. Eli's story is steeped in faith, not just in a religious sense, but also in his faith in his own abilities and in the collective strength of his people. His faith in God gave him the courage to face the giant, but equally important was his faith in the plan he devised and the people who executed. Faith, in this context, is the belief that even when the odds are against us, there is a way through if we trust in ourselves and the resources we have. This lesson encourages us to cultivate faith in our endeavors, to believe in our abilities, and to trust that, with perseverance, we can achieve our goals. 5. Hope is a catalyst for change. The atmosphere in the Israelite camp was one of despair and resignation before Eli's intervention. The presence of Saph had cast a long shadow over the hearts of the soldiers, much like the fear that can paralyze us in our own lives when faced with daunting challenges. Eli's actions rekindled hope among the Israelites, and this hope became the driving force that led to their victory. The story illustrates that hope is not just a passive feeling, but an active catalyst for change. It is what turns the tide in our favor, pushing us to take action when all seems lost. The lesson here is clear. In times of adversity, hope is not something we wait for, but something we create through our actions and attitude. 6. Resilience is essential in the face of ongoing challenges. The defeat of Saph was a significant victory, but it was not the end of the war. Eli understood that this battle was just one of many, and that the struggle for freedom and safety would continue. His resilience, the ability to keep moving forward even after a hard-won victory, is a critical lesson for us all. Life is full of ongoing challenges, and resilience is the quality that allows us to face each new obstacle with renewed strength and determination. This story teaches us that we must be prepared for the long journey, knowing that each victory is a step toward our ultimate goal, but not the final destination. 7. Humility and self-awareness are crucial for personal growth. Eli never sought glory or recognition. His primary concern was the safety of his people and the well-being of his brothers. His humility allowed him to approach the challenge with a clear mind, focusing on the solution rather than his ego. This humility is tied closely to self-awareness. Eli knew his strengths and limitations, which enabled him to devise a strategy that played to his strength. This lesson is particularly relevant in a world where arrogance and overconfidence can often lead to failure. By maintaining humility and self-awareness, we can better assess our situations and make decisions that are in the best interest of everyone involved. 8. Community and collaboration are key to overcoming great challenges. Eli did not defeat Saf alone. His victory was the result of collaboration with his brothers and the other soldiers. This highlights the importance of community and teamwork when facing significant challenges. No matter how capable we are individually, there are times when we must rely on others to achieve our goals. The story of Eli and Saf teaches us that by working together, leveraging each other's strengths, and supporting one another, we can accomplish far more than we ever could on our own. Conclusion. The story of Eli and Saf is a rich tapestry of lessons that speak to the power of courage, intelligence, faith, and community. It reminds us that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, there is always a way forward if we are willing to think creatively, act courageously, and work together. These lessons, drawn from a tale of ancient struggles, continue to resonate in our modern lives, offering timeless wisdom for overcoming the giants we face today.